Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Sheila Lotzar, happy to be your host today. Vern is recovering from the hurricane, and so he hopefully will join us next week when his Wi-Fi is up and running. So looking forward to your questions. So who would like to get started?
I can. And this is funny because I've been interviewing for years and years and years, and this question always comes up, and I don't know how to answer it. But the question is, describe your management style, or tell us about what your management style is.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't know how to answer, never know how to answer that.
I will say hardly anybody knows how to answer that question,
Okay.
including when you ask an employer, right? If you're asking your boss what's your management style, I've hardly had anybody who kind of knows how to do that. So think about an approach you have to management. All right. So when you are supervising somebody, what are some of the ways that you think about how you manage? Can you give some descriptors to that?
I like to, when I'm managing someone, I like to give them the project and be very detailed about what is expected and what the outcome is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then I let them develop how they get to that point.
Yeah.
And make sure that all of the steps are along the way are going well.
Yeah.
I also look at I will answer any questions that they have, but I just want them to be able to get to the end point.
Well, you've just answered the question, Sally.
Okay, good.
That's it. That's the answer to the question. Just that, right? And
Sure.
one more thing you could do to even reframe a little bit of the first part, which is all great, is saying I'm detailed about the what, but I let them figure out the how.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
And then I check in periodically, touch base and see how things are going for project tracking and that kind of thing. But yeah, everything you said,
Okay.
exactly that.
Okay, good.
That's the answer. Simple as that.
That's pretty much the way I've been answering it. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was good or
That's
bad.
absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Yep. Very appropriate. Yep. And if
Thank
you want to color it up with an example,
Sure.
once upon a time story, that'd be great, because they might ask you, but even if they don't, it's good to, sort of demonstrate, right, what you're able to do. So not, in other words, not just saying generic, like, hey, so like you answer the question generically because that's the way they asked it. And then you say, here's a situation just to let you know,
Yeah. Okay.
And a good way to tell those stories, I know a lot of people use what's called the STAR formula: situation, task, action, result. I've usually used the simpler version, SAR, situation, action, result. But there's one that I have come to use more recently that I like even better. It's all the same, but it's just slightly different phraseology. And it's called CAB: challenge, action, benefit. What was the challenge the organization was facing? What were the actions that you took? And how did the organization benefit at the end? Slightly different, but it puts the emphasis on how did you help the organization? Not just what was the situation, but how was the organization impacted by what you did?
Yep.
Hope that helps.
Thank
All
you.
right. So who has another question, thought, topic?
Well, I have a comment or story about networking.
Sure.
Recently, I applied for a job. I received the rejection notice that they're moving on with another candidate. I was on a call and a person said, "Oh, we're looking for somebody." I told them I already got the rejection. She said, "Well, that position is not filled." So they said, "Send me your resume." So I sent it. It went to their manager. They're looking at my resume, and also another person told me about it. So I sent them a note, and so there are two people, I guess, quote, in my court in the organization. So just because the rejection letter came out doesn't mean that you couldn't be considered for a position.
When you said the
Networking is
rejection,
so important.
well, hold on a second time. When you said you got a rejection letter, I mean, you got a rejection letter that your resume wasn't accepted?
No, I got a rejection letter saying we're moving on with another candidate.
Meaning, but so you've interviewed already.
No, I have not interviewed.
That's what I'm saying.
It
So
was the ATS. The
that's what
ATS,
I'm
I
saying.
guess.
Your resume was rejected, not you.
Yes,
That's
yes.
okay.
My resume
That's
was,
a very important distinction.
yes,
Like,
they rejected, apparently whoever did the initial review
you're
or
right,
the ATS or whatever said,
right,
okay, you're not meeting our requirements.
right. That's
So
a
it's
very important distinction. Now, a real live person is an internal champion for you,
yes,
getting your resume noticed.
yeah. I
Yeah,
haven't got to the interview stage, but they're
right,
reviewing resumes. And the
right.
management said probably take about a week to review
That
resumes.
is exactly why we always talk about internal champions, specifically for that reason. Because the ATS could kick your resume out every day because you didn't have the right keyword, the recruiter didn't put in the right keyword. I mean, there's just like a million reasons, right? Why your resume just could get tossed out, having nothing to do with your qualifications. It's just a technical thing. But a real life person, that's typically how your resume will get flagged. Hello, Lisa. And so, right, great. So that's a great tip for everybody. Thank you for sharing that, Ty. That's a real live example. What we talk about all the time here. You know, using LinkedIn, for example, to find people who can champion your candidacy, right? Making sure that you pop in the name of that organization into the search bar. Look at the people who work there. Especially if you can find your hiring manager, and if the hiring manager is a second level to you, that means that you've got at least one first level contact in the middle, reaching out to that first level contact, seeing if they would forward your resume to the hiring manager for extra consideration. Like anything you can do to try to get noticed in the company is huge, right? Because it's normally eyeballs that you need to read those. And especially if there's a relationship that you can leverage, even better, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So if a trusted referral sends you in, that's going to be a much easier way to get noticed than just relying on the applicant tracking system, which again, for a million reasons may not pick you up, even if you're perfectly qualified. So thanks for that, Ty. All right, other questions? Oh, Elisa and Ty, Sil rather, Vern isn't with us today because he lives in Florida and he's dealing with Wi-Fi issues after the hurricane. So, but he's okay. All
I
right.
do have a question
Uh-huh.
regarding, I know organizations, their hiring processes can be very different. What's your perception in terms of when they go to check references? Is that the last step, or could they have multiple candidates they're checking references on?
All right, so I'm gonna say yes and yes. So typically, references are checked at the very end.
Oh, okay.
Often they are checked on the finalist candidate. However, if there's a tie, right, where they are evaluating a couple people, like, oh, we don't know who to choose, we love them both, whatever, they might check references on both people. That's usually now. There are situations where an employer has a process where they check references early on. It can happen. Not usual, because it does take a lot of time. So they might do that just because it's part of their process. Occasionally a search firm might have it as the part of their process to check references early on. But normally it's done right at the end on the finalist. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Kelly, good morning.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was just asking a quick follow-up question, Shara, on that one with the references. Do they typically do it before they make an offer, or they're actually, I'm just thinking about what's going on with me right now. You think they are checking my references and background check now that they made an offer?
No, they only check references before an offer is made, because that actually helps them make their decision. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what can happen? Yeah. See. Okay, so the references, right, are they're just the actual, like, talking to people that they're going to do before an offer. Did they not do that with you? Did they never ask you for your references before they made the offer?
Nope, no references.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, well, and you know what? Look, there are companies that just don't believe in them, because you're only going to give people that are going to say good things. So sometimes employers are like, yeah, we don't really get into it. Background check is a little different. So what could happen, and I'm not saying this is your situation, but sometimes what will happen is an employer will make what's called an offer contingent upon successful completion of a background check. And the background check could be any of the following: criminal, credit, drug. Could be one, could be both, could be all three. Not everybody does it, certainly. Occasionally people will do that, especially if you're going to be handling money, right? Sometimes they'll do a credit check, but there's different, everybody's got different policies. And part of why they do that, they'll do contingent. Also, actually, I will also say they could do an offer contingent upon successful completion of references. That they can do, right? And have done. But especially with the background check, at that point, they're asking for your social security number in order to do the check. So they wait until they actually make a contingent offer, so that they're not asking you for your social security number right ahead of time. They're waiting until that time where you're basically almost hired. But normally regular references are done before the offer.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions?
I have a follow-up question on references. You know, my references, of course, are great and they give me good recommendations. But is when you give a reference, they can ask them anything that they want. Is that correct? You give information to ask anything at all. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Yes, they can ask whatever they want of that reference. Absolutely. Yeah, they're not going to, yes, that's just a very simple answer. Anything about your employment history, about your performance, with strengths, weaknesses, why you left. They could be, depending on who they're talking to, they could be verifying salary, potentially, your title. Yeah, anything you put down on your resume, anything you've talked about in the interview is fair game for that process. Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So,
Let's see.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, before you go on, Sally, Sil is actually unable to chat live right now. Oh, she just said, for the federal job that I have now, my manager could not get in touch with my reference, and she just called my manager and I got hired. Okay. All right, so Sally.
I work in a very small network community with the association world, and there are people that you get along with, there are people that you don't get along with, and there was a time when I had an interview and somebody asked me who I worked with in the department, and of course I mentioned a couple of people I didn't get along with, but you know, I didn't care. But then I thought about it and I didn't get the job. I was like at the very last step in the process, and I was just meeting with people that would be my coworkers,
Yeah.
and part of the team. And she said, yes, I know these people. One woman said, yes, I know these people. And I am absolutely sure she went to those people who don't like me, and I didn't get the job because of it. So what you're saying is don't mention anybody that don't like you.
Well, I mean, you got to be careful, right? If you're ever going to name drop, you got to be careful, because people will go. They will talk to all kinds of folks. Yeah, I mean, I was doing a search recently, and there was it's okay. So the candidate, all right, I'll just call the candidate Jane. All right. So Jane used to work with somebody who works at the employer, right? So the place that she was interviewing with, one of Jane's former coworkers works there.
Yes.
And so when the former coworker heard that Jane was being interviewed, the former coworker told my client, the executive, said, "Oh, Jane's kind of a gossip," and da 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 da. And that employer said to me, "We don't want that kind of thing here," and basically didn't completely screen her out, because I said, "Hey, we really need to think about her again." But mentally already just sort of said, you know, basically took the opinion of that person.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, and I had to help her. I had to help my client think more broadly than that. I said, we can't just rely on the opinion of one person. We've got to go through so that was me as the recruiter. But my client was being a normal human being. She was just thinking, oh, it was kind of a bad reference.
Yeah.
So it can happen. So yeah, you want to be just a little careful in names that you drop.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a suggestion you want to do, Sally, if there's people you think might hurt your character, reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I'm looking for a job. I was wondering, would you be a reference for me? And if they kind of pause and say, listen, they can let you know what's going on and maybe say, hey, listen, I'm not perfect and all that stuff, and try to make amends to them or whatever. I just, could be an idea if you want.
Sally, you're on mute, Sally.
Can you repeat that again? I didn't understand what you were saying.
So if you think there's people in your network, in your industry that have a bad rap about you, reach out to them, find out why they don't like you, and then just say, listen, maybe I'm sorry, maybe it was a bad, I don't know, just say something. Listen, I'm trying to work on some things in myself and change my ways, and can you help me out? And most people will help you out.
You think so?
But don't be, I know so.
Okay.
I know so. I mean, I had an interview yesterday. It's supposed to be a half an hour. It ended up being an hour and 15 minutes. He goes, oh my gosh, you totally spun this interview along. And we had a great conversation. And she's moving up to Arlington. You calling me? I got some references for you for restaurants and all that stuff. And it's just a casual conversation, but I was prepared for everything. And it's amazing, but and just be yourself. But if there's anybody that you think knows is gonna trash you, reach out to them. Listen, I know we had some bad. Pardon me?
Yeah, it's not about, it's a really good idea that Kelly is sharing, because, well, it's just good to have good relationships, right? And to make amends and have reconciliation, just period, right? On top of which, yes, you're right. I mean, people could have misperceptions, people could feel all kinds of things. And if you already know that there are a couple people who are feeling a certain way towards you, why not reach out and say, hey, I just want to clear the air, right? And see if there's, just kind of go back and make peace and, go back over whatever you think was going on. Ask them maybe how they were feeling about you, maybe apologize if needed, or just like Kelly said, maybe, I'm learning to thank you for that feedback. I'm learning to work on that. Like, just humble yourself, right?
Okay.
And that could make amends really well.
And another thing is, is there any way I can help you out with anything in your career like that too? Yeah. And they'll be blown away. You kill people with kindness.
Yeah, that's right.
It blows people away. So
that's right. What can I do for you? That's right, Kelly. Thank you for that. Yeah.
All right.
Turn it into a positive.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Other thoughts? Let's see. What did Sil say here? Heard a story where one of the employees at the employer's place of employment looked up the job seeker on the internet and took the bad stuff they found to the hiring manager. The job seeker didn't get the job. Yeah, it happens. Right. And especially in social media, right? You want it's public for the most part, unless you lock down your privacy, that people can find things. It's important to remember when you're out there in the internet to remember that anybody can be watching, anybody can be listening. So, these things happen. And by the way, if you're ever concerned about what's being said about you on the internet, there are what's called reputation management firms that can help clean up your social media presence. That's just on the side, just to let you know. Yeah, but we're in a digital world, right? And people can see stuff. In fact, I know of somebody who was worked for an association years ago. The association is, I'll just say, has conservative leanings. That's all I'll say. And this individual was, it still is, very much an environmentalist. And so this person, on the job, in their private life, went on social media and was like, oh, this and that about climate change, all this stuff, right, that the person believed in. Well, that was antithetical to what the mission of this organization was. And he didn't last there, right? Because what he was saying in his personal life was so contradictory to what his employer was doing. They just felt that it was really going to hurt their brand reputation. So I'm not saying what should or shouldn't have happened there. I just mean, just be thoughtful, right? When you're online, that what you say in your personal life can be discoverable by an employer.
I don't know if anybody in the group is going to networking events. I went to 3 in the past 2 weeks, and they go, so what are you doing? I'm looking for a job. You know what? I might know someone, and just really don't worry about what people think, because people that have been in your shoes, and it's, you know, don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's another 2 cents or 3 cents now.
Yeah. All right, Elisa, do you have a question?
Hi, everybody. I'm new to this group and I'm sorry I'm late.
Okay.
I was having internet connection issues. Yeah, I'm glad you're on the internet, the networking topic, because that was what I wanted to talk about. I left my job in June voluntarily, and it was not a good situation. It was not a good boss. It was not a good cultural situation. And I left for my own health. And I just came through the JCA Career Gateway program, which is really wonderful. And I'm working on beefing up my resume and my LinkedIn profile. And I was hoping that, well, let's see, Kelly, you just mentioned networking events. So I would be, were they live or were they on Zoom?
Oh, all of them were live. And sometimes they had fees. I talked to the person who's running it. Hey, listen, I'm looking for a job. I lost my job. Mine's a little tight. Can you help me out? No problem, Kelly. We'll take care of it for you. You gotta ask. If you don't ask, you won't get it. And I'm probably a little more different than other people. I'm not shy. I don't have comfort zone.
Where are you finding your networking events? And what, are you in Virginia or Maryland?
I'm in Maryland. I'm not that far from you. I'm in Rockville. You're in Albany. So, yeah, just scour things, meet up groups. And I don't know what your industry is. I think it's go in there, just look up there, find out there's, you know, Northern Virginia Tech Council. I was another one, was a commercial real estate event I went to. Last night I went to Doc Walker's event, you know, and it was a pro view, but yeah, just go there and just show up and tell me looking for a job. And you'd be surprised how many people will help people out. And I think you have to open the network. You know, Cher's a big believer of that. It's okay to be vulnerable. People want to help people out, especially in today's society. So, I mean, look what's going on in Florida. Look at all that disaster, but people are helping other people out. So, you know, there's one of the news anchors said, yeah, we're in a diverse society now, but at the end of the day, when things go tough, people help people out. That's the American way. So,
What other unique networking ideas or things have others of you done that have been successful, or where someone's helped you out? Something different than maybe, or it could be on LinkedIn or otherwise.
but there's an event that goes every Thursday night at 7:45, Bulletproof for Your Career. I'll put it in the link. There's over 500 people on there. I think they've done over 215 consecutive weeks of calls. Pat Ramatelli, she's phenomenal. I mean, that lady's a machine on networking. She don't know TV, which I could not do that. But she wants to read 100 books a week, a month. I mean, 100 books a year, and she does a TED talk and all that stuff. But you know, and of course,
Kelly, what is the name of the group? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
it's called Bulletproof Your Career. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
It's every Thursday at 7:45. She's phenomenal. I mean, I've never seen a lady. She almost has as much energy as Shira. So, oh yes, you do. You have energy. You pop like yesterday. You popped up. You got the blue. It's Bob's Coffee. It just, you know, it's all about helping people out. And she's great. And she'll and everyone will send their information in the chat. So you copy that chat and you reach out to all those people. And there's like 500 people.
But this is virtual? It's
Oh,
virtual?
yeah. She's in Atlanta,
Yeah, it sounds-
Georgia. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's very, very powerful. I can't emphasize it enough. So, Ty, were you on it last night? Okay. But anyway,
Yeah,
I was
I didn't go.
and Elisa, actually, just to your point, the question that you asked us, one of the ways to find out where to network is to consistently ask everybody, where do they network?
Yeah.
Get it?
Mhm.
Truly, because you never know, right? You never know where people are networking. So I'll give, for example, and this wouldn't be a group. I'm not gonna I'm going to share the group name, okay, but it's not for this group because it's not really job seeker oriented. It's for small business owners, okay? It's a group called Context Create Cash. And one of my clients introduced me to it. It's just a Monday morning, just networking thing, and they talk about business topics, whatever. And I show up to that group, first of all, turns out I actually knew people in that group that I wasn't aware of, but I met all kinds of interesting folks. And I've actually used that as a platform to recruit speakers for the community service group that I run called Boomerworks, which helps 50 plus professionals get into self-employment. I met all kinds of my speakers there. I've recruited them, right? It was this beautiful like networking opportunity for me because one person said, hey, Shira, I think you might like this group, right? So my point is that every person you talk to, just say, hey, are you involved in a networking group? If so, tell me. And you never know. And that's actually how I've connected to all kinds of networking groups, how I've gotten involved. Like you saw me in JCA. Well, that was through networking. Somebody said, hey, you should, oh, hey. But proactively ask the question and people will share, because there are all these little hidden groups, right? Like our group is hidden. Not everybody knows about this group, right? But you heard about it because you saw me in JCA, right? So it's always making those connections. So it's always be asking.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm. Hi.
Lisa, I think it's important, like you go to these large groups and then as they're saying, pick off, get to connect with LinkedIn on these people and ask for 15 or 20 minutes of their time. And as Vern always said, it's about giving back, learning more about what you can do for them.
Right.
And then it becomes reciprocal.
That's right.
And one thing that's important is keeping in contact with your network contacts, because people are busy, they forget about you. So I have not done a great job of that, but keeping in contact, letting them know, showing your face up at these meetings. I think it's also important, as mentioned, is the industry groups, whatever industry you're in, try to get to the association or the groups that meet, try to get in their networking meetings or in person and go there and get to know people because they know where the jobs are.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can't emphasize, whoever you talk to, you send them a link to, hey, do you want to send you a LinkedIn request? And that's, I've got over 18,000 people. Network. I mean, that's all it's about. Same on Facebook. I use Facebook. I'm sorry.
I have a big LinkedIn network.
So Elisa, are you familiar with HR Lit, the HR Leaders in Transition group?
Yes, from Virginia.
Yeah, are you part of it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Although I haven't been getting emails for a while, so I don't know what happened with that, but
Okay.
I have been for a few years now.
Yeah. And of
So-
course, I mean, goes without saying, right? We have 1,000 different SHRM chapters around here. I mean, I know you know that, but get back plugged in. I don't know which groups you're with. And I'm not plugged in anymore myself, so I'm not sure if people are back in person or online.
Oh,
But
they're not.
especially, are they mostly virtual now?
Montgomery County SHRM is still virtual.
Okay. So what I would do is, because it's likely that the other SHRM chapters are, right, at least to some extent, that's the beauty of virtual. You don't have to travel. Remember how before the pandemic, it was like, oh, I live in Montgomery County, I go to Montgomery County SHRM. I live in DC, I go to DC SHRM, right? It's not that way anymore. You can go to Prince William SHRM, you can go to HOCO, you can go to Dulles, you can go to Prince George's, right? You can expand your network because things are virtual. And that goes for everybody on this call. I mean, I'm mentioning this specifically for Lisa, but that's the beauty now of having gone virtual. Look, this call, we've had people from outside the region, like way outside the region, come here. Or had this been a local event, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, so the accessibility has expanded. So I highly recommend that in your case, Elisa, check out all the SHRM chapters, every single one of them, and plug in as much as possible.
And the ones you think you're connected to, I would just go ahead and go on that line and check out, because sometimes they scrap the membership, and whoever hasn't been on there in a little while, they take their email out of the distro list. So not gonna hurt.
Yeah, and at the end of the meetings, do try to connect with folks, because I know that's the downside of virtual, right? Is that we're not sitting there chit chatting. It's a little static like this. But if somebody says something that's interesting in the meeting, chat them and say, hey, I've really loved what you talked about. Would love to have a follow-on with you, talk about that issue, arrange for a Zoom coffee. Use it as a conversation starter.
Okay.
To bond with somebody, including the speaker, by the way. A lot of the speakers are open to to connecting with folks, especially if they are coming to a chapter meeting. That oftentimes means that they're doing that for free because it's business development for them, which means they really want to meet the people in the room. So if you reach out to them, you never know, Lisa, maybe, you talk to the speaker, you're looking for a job, they help you out, you land a job, and then then they become your client, or you become their client rather.
Also, when you go to an event, get there like 10, 15 minutes early, because sometimes the speaker's on there, just checking his audio and all that, start her audio. And then, oh, how you doing? How you doing?
Yeah.
Love your,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of ways to do it.
Yeah.
That helpful, Lisa?
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure. Ty?
I don't know if it was mentioned during the course of the conversation, but Career Network Ministry is huge in this area, and almost everybody job seeker I've talked to has been involved in this group. I don't know, their meetup group's probably over, over 10,000 people that come through the program or are still connected, and they run 8 to 10 programs virtually, and now some in person. And it's a real good networking opportunity. And one of those programs is an interviewing group that Kevin Conifee runs, and then he does a spinoff on that on Tuesday afternoons.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend, so the two of the groups I'd recommend along those lines are CNM, right? So like Ty said, they've got, here's their link. They have meetings all throughout the week. Now, they didn't used to do that pre-pandemic, right? Because it was all live, it was all in
Mhm.
person. And so, they met at McLean Bible Church, and, they would do these big meetings, what have you. But now it's right all throughout the week. The other group that also now meets all throughout the week is Career Confidence. I'm going to put that in the chat too. Career-confidence.org. Both groups, fantastic. Great speakers, warm, wonderful people. CNM has the added feature of having what they call accountability groups. And I think they're starting up right now, if I'm not mistaken. And what did you say? In 2 weeks, Kelly?
they're on the second week, so you can still get on. Gail said there's plenty of room, so they're looking for people.
Do you have Gail Crockett's information, Kelly? Could you put that in
Yeah,
the chat?
I'll put it in
Yeah,
there.
Gail has come on this group sometimes. Anyway, she's one of the accountability group leaders. So you get into a group, and it's literally to hold you accountable in your job search. You meet, I think, what is it, every week with your team?
Yeah.
And you track your progress and share how things are going, and that kind of thing. So that's a really nice group to plug into.
What is the career network and what's the M?
Career Network Ministry.
I put it in the chat.
Yeah, so it's the chat. It's the chat that says meetup.com/MBC-CNM.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's simple.
Yeah, it's a really, they're both great groups. So Career Network Ministry as well as Career Confidence.
And I'm also going to put the thing you have to fill out to do it, to join one of the groups.
And what Lisa mentioned earlier, that she went to this group called JCA. So JCA has three different kinds of job seeker opportunities. One that she went through is called Career Gateway. I should say there's two options. Career Gateway, which is actually $75, but it's very inexpensive. And it's a week long, not like a Monday through Friday, but it's like like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, right? That kind of thing, all day long for those days. It's led by a woman named Dr. Elise Barnes, who's terrific, and she leads you through a whole curriculum of your job search from soup to nuts. I happened to pop in there one day in that process to do a LinkedIn training. That's how Lisa and I got to know each other. Well, we knew each other before, but knew of each other before, but how we
Reconnected.
Yeah. And so that's a great group, but that's if you want the deep dive intensive job search boot camp, if you will. The other thing that they offer are virtual job fairs, especially geared toward the 50+ community. In fact, JCA is about the 50+ community. And they have, in fact, they just had a job fair in November or in October.
Last week.
And now they have another one coming up. Is October 20th, October 14th?
So yeah,
I think so. I'll go ahead and look it up for you guys and pop it in the chat. But yeah, so JC is another great one to go to.
And her name was Elisa? Barnes?
Oh, sorry, Elise, Elisse, Dr. Elise Barnes, Barnes. She happens to run it, but the
Okay.
person who hosts the whole thing, her name is Jody Rash. In any
Yeah.
event, I'll put the, I'll find the link for you.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
get you both of them.
Sally, I also did the program. I think it's fantastic. I
okay,
think they also, they have a tech series if you want to brush up on PowerPoint and Excel and Word.
mhm.
I did too. It's really good. They've got the two teachers are awesome.
All right, so I just put down the career gateway, and now I'm going to give you the expo, the virtual expos link. Hit the wrong button.
You left us, Shira.
Sorry.
You disappeared.
Are you there? Oh, so that's odd. I am here. Let me. I think it might. Oh, hold on.
You took a dip in the lake.
I'm back. Okay, so in the chat now, you've got the JCA, the career gateway, which is the $75 week long, and then the virtual expos, which are a half day, well, career fair. They have employers, and they also have a few speakers.
If I'm not mistaken, they have a Montgomery County one, they have a Virginia one.
Right. They're virtual, so it kind of doesn't matter,
Yeah.
but they do label them Montgomery County and Northern Virginia.
And also there's a women in technology too. There's a job fair there. I forget it. I'll look it up. But go on to if you're looking for networking, go to Meetup. Or just check out what they have in Meetup website.
Yeah, and remember too, when you're networking, there's an expression there's a consultant named David A. Fields, and I love his expression. He says, "Fish where the fish are." Okay, so you want to look at your school of fish, right? Who are your school of fish? So Lisa, yours are, of course, are in the HR world, right? Sally, yours are in the association world. Ty, yours the same thing. Diana, yours in the communication world, that kind of thing, right? So like, think about who are your fish? Who's your fish pond? Where do they swim? Hang out there, right? Hang out there as much as possible. Not to say that you shouldn't be hanging out in other ponds. That's fine. You can do, like, for example, this is a pond that has schools of, we're different colored fish here. Okay. We all do different things, different industries, and that's totally fine. And it's great. And you should, and wonderful. And you never know who you're going to meet, and absolutely talk to people. And make sure you're also swimming with your fish because those are the people who are more likely to hear about the jobs that are right for you. That makes sense? Like Lisa, over the months, we've had, a couple of HR people who've happened to be on this call. Yeah. Like Sonia Lee, I'm not sure if you know her because she's with HR Lit. She was with our group for a long time before she landed, right? Sandra George, she was also in HR. But most people on this call are from all kinds of backgrounds. Right?
Sandra just got a job too.
She did get a job, exactly, just like last week.
Yeah.
Which is great. But the point though is that when you hang out with the people who, right, are in your community, they're more likely to hear about things. So Sally, are you familiar, as an example, are you familiar with Nicole's association coffee chat on every morning at 8:30?
No,
I used to go a long time ago. Ty, you still go, right? Ty, do you want, I can find the link unless you have it handy. Do you want to put the Zoom link for Sally?
I will find the link.
So here's an example, right? So I'm also part of the association community, and there is a woman named Nicole who, back in the beginning of the pandemic, started this 8:30 in the morning Zoom call, just because, look, people were home, and you remember that time, it was like, oh, all right, just as place of her camaraderie. And so she starts this call every single morning from 8:30 to 9. People get on this call and they just talk about stuff. Everything from silly stuff like cat videos to really strategic stuff like what's going on in the association strategy world, right? Like anything and everything. And it's been a great networking group. In fact, there was somebody here's a story. There was somebody who used to be on this call in the beginning of the pandemic. And there was another person on this call who used to go to Nicole's group. Told the first person on this call, hey, come to this group. First person comes, her name is Kimberly. Kimberly goes to the association chat. Again, she heard about it here. She goes over there. And then in that group, somebody said, hey, my organization is looking for a director of membership. Kimberly's the director of membership, puts them in touch, she gets the job. Okay. Like you just don't know. So here was a generic place. She found her fish pond somewhere else from this group and landed, right? So it's always good to network with everybody and find your community, both.
Mhm.
Okay. Both are really important.
Let me
There's
see.
also a Wednesday night happy hour, which is a little bit more informal, every Wednesday from 5:15 to 6:15. I'm gonna put that in the chat also. You basically just click on the Zoom link and it connects you. There were usually like 6 to 10 people on there. The morning chat has probably been as high as like close to 30 people, sometimes as low as like 15.
What is that group, Ty? What, the specific type of group?
And they also have a LinkedIn. It's called Association Coffee Chat.
Coffee chat. Now, Elisa, it's really first, I mean, anybody can come, of course, but it's for the association community.
Association people. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's anybody in the association role. So that's what's interesting is that what binds them together is the fact that they're all part of the same sector. However, that group is also generic because it's all kinds of association people, membership people, communications people, government, like anybody can join. So in that regard, it's a little more generic, but because it's a sector, a lot of the people in that sector tend to network with each other pretty well.
I just put another one, 40 plus of Greater Washington. I
40
put
plus,
that in
yep.
the chat.
Yep.
I've been to those. They have great speakers.
Yeah, they do.
Great
They now
meetings.
meet in the evening, as I understand, right?
Yeah,
Monday
before it was
night,
at 10
it's
o'clock on
7.
Monday, but now they switched,
Mhm.
yeah.
7 to 8:30 on Monday
Yeah.
nights.
Yeah, so that's another, yeah. So 40 plus, career confidence, career network ministry, JCA, and at least in the DC area, those are the 4 that I would highly recommend. Oh, and also on Thursday mornings, CNM has something called Coffee with Bob K. Bob Korzeniewski is the head volunteer of Career Network Ministry, and he hosts something actually very much like what we do here, the open Q&A, and actually he goes even a little deeper and has people kind of talk about their story and get a little more, I do more like, hey, what's your question? He does more, hey, Sally, okay, let's talk about you, right? Like, what's your story? What's your career path? What's happening? Where are you stuck? And then he does it a little bit differently. So his is every Thursday morning from 9 to 10:30.
10:30. Yeah.
Yes, I'll put the link in the chat there. And again, you can just show up whenever you like. Ty.
Yeah.
Elisa, are you a member of ASAE?
ASA?
ASAE.
Yeah, the American Society of Association Executives.
Well,
No.
she wouldn't be because she's actually in the HR community.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, she's not in the association world.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I guess I'm speaking as Sally.
Oh, Sally.
Yeah, are you a
Yes.
member of ASAE?
Oh, I will tell you that I have been a member for like 25 years. And this year I decided, because they set up the membership stuff differently. And so I had a membership all the way up until September of this year. And then I decided I'm going to wait and see what my professional area is, what my job is in, and then I will do something about it.
Okay,
So,
the reason why I
if it
mentioned
is
is,
an association, you better believe that's the first place I'm going to go, because I love that organization.
you're probably very familiar with collaboration on there.
Yes.
Sometimes they drop jobs in there in collaboration. There's
Mhm.
also, you may be familiar with Membership Mondays once a month. They do Membership Mondays. And there's also another group that isn't connected to ASC. It's called the Business of Membership. There's one membership director that has like a chat. There's usually 5 to 10 people on there every month.
Mhm.
And you're in the education
Thank
space,
you.
Sally, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I'm gonna put in the chat one of my somebody I know who plays in that. She's actually been also long-term association education person.
Okay.
Her name is
Mhm.
Stephanie Santini, and I can introduce you if you like, but I'll put her LinkedIn profile in the chat.
Okay.
You can look her up, and if you'd like to meet her, then
Yes.
I can introduce you.
All right. That would be great.
Mhm.
There's another
I-
good group with Rob Jollis. He meets every other Tuesday. I think it is, Ty, isn't it? Rob Jollis. You're on mute, bro, Ty,
I'm not sure when it meets. I believe it is on Tuesdays.
at 7:30 in the morning. He's a great guy.
What's the name of that group, Kelly?
I forget it, but I'll find out, but it's I'll put Rob's email in there and you can send him a message. He'll actually
Thank
do a one-on-one with you for 30 minutes.
Career Network Services is Rob's group, isn't it, Kelly?
I'm gonna find out right now. Big Bob, Scott.
Hi, Ty. Is that first part of your thing? What's that one for? Is that
That
a
is for the group that Shira mentioned. The Zoom meeting is for the association executives. It's not ASAE. It's just that group that some CAE started, the Certified Association Executive, that they network from 8:30 to 9 in the morning, Monday through Friday. And then they have a happy hour every Wednesday night from
Thank you.
5:15 to 6:15.
Glad we've had, Elisa, thanks for prompting this whole networking conversation.
Yes, this has been great.
Yeah. Yeah. Every once in
Wow.
a while we talk about these groups, but it's nice to be prompted so that everybody can participate. There's a lot of stuff. And
Thank you
look,
all.
yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Great stuff.
There's a lot of networking groups here in this area, but you know what? There's a lot of networking groups around the country. We just think regionally. But Lisa, to your original point around, hey, what groups should you go to? Because there are so many positions that are remote these days, I think we all need to be expanding our mindset out of our little provincial kind of concept, like, oh, we're DC area. Well, in fact, Scott, I think you're in New Jersey, right? Like people are all around the country. So I would actually start asking people who don't necessarily live here, what groups do you go to? And go bounce in Philadelphia and Detroit and whomever, wherever, right? Because opportunities can be anywhere these days. Right?
True.
Yeah, you could really fill up your day
There's-
with networking.
There's actually two lists. The Landed Expert that Alex Freund puts out lists networking groups all over the country, most heavily on the East Coast, and also My Central Jersey, I think, is something that about 4 or 5 job coaches got together and is listing groups and speakers and topics, and it's like one big great link of all things job searching.
So how do we get a hold of that list? Where can I find that?
The first one, you go to thelandedexpert.com and it will be on the website, and the other one I'm going to look up and put into the.
And Scott, when you say the landed, can you spell that for us? LAN?
I'm putting in the chat.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Scott's Mr. Networker, virtual networker.
That's wonderful.
And again, to my
But no face though.
in addition to the other to the generic groups like Scott's talking about, that we've been talking about, which is great. Remember I said also fish where the fish are? In that case, again, you can expand your network nationwide. So Elisa, you can go ready to SHRM chapters in other states. Diana, you can go to PRSA chapter events in other states. That kind of thing, right? There are opportunities within our sectors, whether it's a professional association, which means it's just for people who are in a certain profession, or an industry association, which is for people in a certain industry. There's an association for everything, right? Ty, Sally, don't we know that, right? Everything,
Mhm.
literally everything. And you can network within those groups. And again, because the jobs are so remote, go find groups that are outside the region. Takes a little bit of digging, but it can be really worth it. Because those are people who get you, right? They get what you do. They hear about the right opportunities. Dana, you're in project management, right?
Yeah, I joined PMI and
PMI.
ATD, and it's actually the most joyful I can get because I get what they're talking about every time we
Exactly.
gather.
That's my
Yeah.
point. That's my point, right? Like we can't speak agile to you, but you guys can speak agile to each other. You know?
I
Yeah.
have a question. Do we still have time?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, about dropping the founder or the business side in your resume. What's your take on that? Because I have been comfortable with my resume after I got opinion from people on what I need to improve on. And then I just read an article about it that because I have been in business for 12 years, it's still open now overseas, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day activities anymore. But I read an advice that you would have to drop it off your resume because it will scare recruiters off. But I also don't want to lie because it will be asked on their interview if I get the interview. So what's your opinion on that?
Just to make sure I'm clear, when you said founder, that means you had your own business?
I still have it, but now I'm not, I have a team who runs it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do I drop it off I mean, the title?
You can change the, I mean, depending, you can change the title. You don't have to say founder. What did you actually do in the business?
We have a professional services company, a small one in the Philippines, and
Uh-huh.
we have a small private school too. So it's something that I'm very happy about and proud of. But
You know what you can do? You can actually list it on your resume, but you can list it under additional experience at the bottom of your resume. Have a different section that says additional experience and then just list it there. The only thing though, the tricky part is that it might break up the continuity of your resume, that might break up the chronology.
yeah, that's 12 years already.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
I have been in corporate for almost 6 years, and then I opened that, and then
No, if
12
it
years of
was
gap.
that long, if it was that long, no, then I'll retract. Go back and continue to keep it where it is. But what you can do is you can actually have how do I put this? You can put a little description. So let's say you have the company and you have the title and then you have your dates. But in the description, and you could even bold this, founded, small business doing blah, 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 blah. As of X date, now pursuing traditional full-time W-2 employment, that kind of thing. Like actually make a little note
Okay.
about it right there in the description piece so that you're overcoming any objections.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll do that.
For sure. Yeah, Lisa.
Dana, I agree. I would second that what Shira just said, because as an HR person looking at resumes, a lot of times I would get resumes from people who are currently consultants in their own business and they have clients. And you always wonder, are they planning to keep these clients and continue working on the side and won't, taking time away from work or taking calls while they're working for us? And so it probably would be a concern. So it would be really good to sort of explain that, or even if you are still managing it, I would, make it look like you're not necessarily, or there's, if you have to ever explain that it is managed by someone else and that it's not taking up your time or something.
Thank you. I'll do that because for a while I just placed partner there because I have a partner who runs the day-to-day activities and BOD. But I as I read the article, I realized I only got one interview out of the job boards, and the rest of the interviews really from referrals. So I was thinking maybe that you have a point. This may be discouraging for some that I have other activities. So I'll change it today. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah, you can. I think this is a general tip for everybody. You can explain things on your resume. People don't think that you can. Normally, people say, "Oh, here's what I did," right? Very generically. You can, if you do it creatively, you can say reason for leaving, colon, or something even at the top of your resume that explains, like, pre-pandemic when we weren't doing a lot of remote, people who lived outside the area might have said, relocating to Washington, D.C. area. Okay, like just overcome whatever you think the objection is going to be, but do it in a clean, clear way.
Oh, last question, Shira. Because you advised like three Fridays ago that it's okay to place the career break on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Is that something you also advise in the resumes? I did that on LinkedIn already, but on the resume, do you also
You know,
do
that
that?
would be a new thing, right? Because this is a new thing for LinkedIn. So
Okay.
translating it to the resume, why not? As long as it is clean. I've actually seen it where people will do, they'll call it personal sabbatical, right?
Okay.
And then have just a short description as to what they were doing during that time, or full-time, full-time caregiver. They were doing very, very briefly,
Okay.
and if you were, shall I say, caregiving for yourself, you can just simply say caregiving for a family member because you are your own family member. Okay. So don't ever give away anything medical, right? Because that trips over ADA laws. You don't want to do that. But just something very simple, personal sabbatical or caregiver, something like that. If you have a break for that kind of reason.
For relocations though, doesn't that discourage HR representatives that you're new to the country, or what's your
I
take on
mean, it
that?
is what it is, right? If you're new,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
you can't overcome that. It's just, it is. And simply say if that was the reason why you were in transition, say, relocation, which is relocation period, and then say, relocated from X to Y, and been settling in, or however you want to phrase it, but just something that's very clean that explains the gap.
Thank you, Shira.
Yeah, that's fine. And Lisa, look, you are HR. And in fact, it's funny, when Sonia and Sandra were here for a long time, we would sometimes tap them as well to say, hey, you give us the HR perspective on this. So feel free anytime, really, that the people share things like this in terms of being an employer, a recruiter, what your lens is. We'd love to hear that. Great. All right, any other questions before we wrap up?
I don't have a question, just a little tip. When you do network, ask the person you're talking to, is there anybody else I should talk to? That will help build your
yeah.
network too. Maybe they can throw out a couple more names to you and you can connect with them.
Always ask. Yeah, and a good way to phrase that is, who do you know that might benefit from speaking with me? Not do you know anyone, who do you know? That's an open-ended question.
Shira, I have a quick question,
Mhm.
if I may. I had an interview a week or so ago, and the person said, I'll be back in touch next week. That's been this week. So I haven't heard, and I'm writing a letter just to follow up. There's some interference. Can you
There is
hear
some
it?
interference. Is everybody on mute? Scott, I think Scott, that might be it. Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you could hear me. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's very sort of vanilla, straightforward. Thank you for taking the time to meet me, and I continue to be interested in the role, et cetera, and I'm eager to hear about the next steps, and I greatly appreciate any updates you can share. Is there anything else that should be included in a letter like that?
Are you talking about just a regular thank you note?
No, I did that. This is a
Okay.
follow-up because I was told we'll be in touch in a week, and I
Okay.
haven't heard.
So just so you know, everything takes 4 times longer than you think it will. When an employer says, I'm going to follow up with you in a week, it's usually 3 weeks, if at best, because they have very good intentions, but life happens. It's very busy behind the scenes. All kinds of things happen. New candidates, people go on vacation,
Right.
people change their mind, the HR person, like an Elisa, right, who's might be a generalist, where recruiting is just one of 1,000 things on their plate. They're well-meaning in the conversation, and then all of a sudden everything else goes topsy-turvy. Just hold tight. There's no reason why you have to follow up in a week if you haven't heard. Is
that right?
Yeah, just let it go. Look, and I've said this before, I'll probably end up saying this more and more. I treat a job search, I would encourage you to treat your job search like a farmer. Okay. A farmer plants, you've heard me say this, right? A farmer plants lots of seeds, not expecting that everything's going to pop, right? Wind, rain, birds, whatever. You plant your seeds, let it germinate under the ground, trust in God, and just move on to the next thing. You don't, just because they say, oh, I'm going to follow up in a week, that doesn't mean they will. And that doesn't mean they're going to move forward with you. Don't hold on to the role. Plant
Right.
the seed and move on to another seed.
Mm-hmm.
do your thank you note. If you're curious in a few weeks, sure, you can write a note. But guess what, Diana? If you're their candidate of choice, they will track you down. They will send you a carrier pigeon to your home, okay? They will find you.
Right.
You do not have to let any anxiety, like just put that aside. Just be at peace,
Mhm.
right? If they're
Yeah.
if you're the candidate of choice, they
Good.
will find you. That's it. You do your part, let them do their part, and then move on to other opportunities.
They might send her a drone.
Yeah, might. You never know.
Send her a what?
A drone.
A drone.
Oh,
Drop a note in front of your door with a drone.
I'll
Right.
look out my window.
There you
Okay.
go. Okay. So just seriously, don't sweat it. Things change every
Well,
second.
thank you for that. Okay. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I
put it- I
I
put
get
it-
it. I get it.
I put it on another person, Hannah Morgan from Career Sherpa, another good contact too. She's awesome. Do you guys all know how to copy the chat?
I tried that once and it didn't work
So-
for me. So I don't know. It's
You
So-
where
should,
does
so
it?
you should be able to. So go to the very bottom, open the chat box, go to the very bottom on the right-hand side, very, very bottom. There are 3 little dots. You tap on that, it should say save chat. So open the chat box
Okay.
first, then go to the bottom, look at the 3 dots. Tap them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also the other thing is it does say chat saved and up at the top of the message area. And then it says saved in folder or something like that. I've lost it.
Yeah.
But it's not in, like, it doesn't pop up as a Word document or something
No.
like that. You have to go into what is it? Sorry.
You have to go into your, I think it's the downloads. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys, download.
So go to your, so when you open up your drive, go to your PC and then click on downloads.
Right.
Should be there.
I'm doing that. Okay, I'm looking.
It
some
depends on
meetings
what,
are-
it depends on the settings of the default settings that you place
Yeah.
there. So if it's downloads, it's downloads, but sometimes it goes
It's
to another
not.
folder. Yeah.
It's not.
I can add you in LinkedIn and I can send you the notes.
Oh, thank you.
Me too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Because
Good.
I didn't see it. I just looked now and I didn't see anything in
Yeah,
download.
you got to hit the little like folded paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure this one out. Thank
All
you so
good. It's all good. Us senior citizens got to stick together.
That's funny.
Oh, jeez.
Our seasoned people. I said that.
That's
Sorry about
seasoned.
that.
Season,
Never.
yeah.
Whatever.
Season
It's
with
all
salt
good.
and pepper, right? All right, ladies and
No
gents.
salt.
So thank you for your time today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. And as per usual, for those of you who want to stay on the call, I do offer a short prayer call. Happy to have anybody stay on that for who wants to. And otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. And hopefully, Lord willing, Vern will be back with us, bright and shiny.
Great.
All right, everyone. See you soon. God bless you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye now.